Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or maybe even good night to you. Welcome to the October 2016 training for network readiness. So I'm Cornel Bullens. I'm a senior customer engineering architect, and I work within the Skype customer experience and deployment team. So for today, we'll be talking a little bit about SOF. What is SOF actually? What is the Skype operations framework? We'll do an introduction and overview of the network readiness assessment. We will then go through a walkthrough of the network readiness assessment. We'll talk about how to prepare for one. Then we'll walk through the 3 stages. Stage 1 is the kickoff stage. Stage 2 is the on-site stage. And stage 3 is the closeout stage. Our learning objectives for today are, we really want you to know how to position a network readiness assessment. So what is it? What does it do? Why is it valuable? And we want you to be able to deliver a network readiness assessment. So that being said, this is the network readiness overview. So we'll be giving you an overview of all the materials, of what you should do, how this works, how this ties together, what it does. We'll basically talk about what materials, when to use. There's also another training. It's called the Network Readiness Walkthrough. This actually shows you how you should deliver one. So what we'll be doing is we'll be delivering a network readiness assessment for the customer Contoso. Contoso will be enjoying our company and our delivery of this network readiness assessment. So this training is really meant to show you, hey, what is this? What materials do I use? How should I get started doing one of these? And the other training really is showing you how it's done. So that being said, let's start with our Skype operations framework. So basically what we've been doing over the years is we've got this huge shift of working from moving from really on-prem focused installations into a more online world where there are still on-prem components, but mostly focused on the cloud. What we're trying to do with Skype Operations Framework is basically provide that framework for partners and customers alike on how to deliver on the Skype for Business planning, the deployment, and the operations, so it's done in a consistent way. We're showing you how we believe it should be done, and we'll give you all the tools, training, materials, all those kinds of things we'll give you, and we'll let you know how this should be done. That being said, we need your feedback. If you go through these trainings, if you go through these materials and basically you're saying, hey, this doesn't work, or my customer experienced something very different, let us know. We need that. If you're missing materials, we're building the Skype operations framework totally based on your feedback. We need to know how you're using it, what you're doing with it, and what you're missing, so that we can anticipate any changes we need to do and we can make them for you. You can always go to skypeoperationsframework.com/feedback and provide that feedback to us. There's also a Skype Operations Framework community. It's a community. I'll be there. My colleagues will be there. The people behind the Skype Operations Framework are engaged in that community. You can ask not just us, but also your fellow people in that community to get a good grip on what we're doing with Skype Operations Framework, what's coming, and any issues you have. We're happy to help you with that. So, training disclaimer for today. The Skype Operations Framework is a living framework. So we'll be adding more stuff along the way. So this training is a good example of this. This is the second version of the training, or the October 2016 version. There's some new stuff in here. If you've already seen the previous training, if you've already had training on network readiness assessment, there's also a different training. That training is totally focused on what's new in network readiness assessment. That's the training you want to do. So this training really meant for those people that are new to the network readiness assessment, and in this training, we'll talk you through there. So, where are we in SOF? So the network readiness assessment is part of the assess phase, which is part of plan. A network readiness assessment must be performed for every implementation. If your customer is running Skype for Business, they must run a network readiness assessment. It's as simple as that. It's a continuous process. You don't run it once. You keep running it through the life cycle of Skype for Business. And we'll talk more about that later on. So let's do an intro of the network readiness assessment. When we were building the network readiness assessment, and specifically the network readiness assessment essentials, which is the version that we'll be training you on, this was our thought behind that. We wanted to have a low entry readiness assessment that can be performed within a week by anyone with minimal training to avoid 90% of the predictable problems with Skype for Business. If you run your customer through this, and really, as far as effort, we're really aiming at this not being more than a week's of effort. Spend that week, your customer must be doing this, spend that week, and you'll know things about bandwidth, recommended network practices. You'll know by the use of a network readiness tool, you actually know how the network will be performing when you start implementing Skype for Business. It really is completely focused around giving you a super simple way of getting your customer's network ready for Skype for Business. So with this newer version, we've also added a network readiness assessment tool. It's called the Skype for Business Network Assessment Tool, or the SOF Network Assessment Tool. The one thought that we had when creating this tool, that this should be an easy to install, run, and operate tool that can be run by every customer and deployment team in the world to verify their current connection status as compared to the networking requirements for Skype for Business Online. And I know it's a really big sentence, but all this tool does and all it's supposed to do is you go to the Microsoft download page, you download the tool, it's a zip file, you unzip it, you open a command prompt, you run the tool, a set of results come out, you run a result analyzer, and it basically tells you, hey, if this was measured from an edge location, you either pass or fail. If this was measured from a client, you either pass or fail. And based on that, you can take action. That's all it's supposed to do. It's a 5-minute action. And within SOF, we've actually provided guidance on how to run that tool, how to deploy the tool, how to properly use it to assess your customer's network. We'll talk more about that during this presentation. And in the presentation that's focused on actually delivering one, the mock delivery, will actually show you the tool. So, what are the objectives for running a network readiness assessment? We want to unveil risk areas. We want to reduce the risk that customers run when implementing Skype for Business. We also want to give the customer network recommendations. So should they configure QoS or not? Is ExpressRoute a good thing? What can they expect when they start running Skype for Business? We also want to prepare for operations. So we want to make sure that the delivery team trains the end customer. So once the delivery team is done or the partner is no longer at the customer is capable of running these network assessments themselves, and they can keep a sort of a pulse going on how's the network performing as compared to Skype for Business. Now, why do we want a network readiness assessment? Well, usually when customers start implementing Skype for Business, it's a disruptive workload. It's something the customer hasn't run before. It's new. They're doing new things. There are new modalities. There's new bandwidth usage. A lot of customers already have wireless, but now they're doing real-time communication over wireless. What does this mean for the wireless? We also know that since Skype for Business really relies on that network, we want to make sure the customers know in advance how Skype for Business will react to to basically the customer's network. So we want to make sure that the customer know what's going to happen before they're implementing this tool and before they get complaints. And we want to identify potential network challenges. Maybe they have deployed a wireless network that will not cope with Skype for Business. That can happen. If that's the case, that's something we want to highlight to the customer before we start the deployment. So, what are non-goals? It's not a deep dive assessment. It will not go into configuration of routers. It will not go into very deep dive QS configurations. We'll provide recommendations, but we won't do a deep dive in existing equipment. It's also not network equipment failure remediation. This really is, if routers are broken, things like that. There's an offer called the Network Readiness Assessment Advanced. Those can be used to identify and fix those issues. It's also not an assessment of the network equipment themselves. So, for instance, a Wi-Fi assessment. Those can be part of an advanced network readiness assessment. So, what do we do in this network readiness assessment? So, during our 3 stages, we basically start off with the kickoff and data collection. It's a kickoff presentation in which we'll explain to the customer, hey, this is the network readiness assessment. This is what we'll be doing together. This is what we expect from you. This is what you should expect from us. Oh, and by the way, here's a questionnaire we need you to complete. Then we move to stage 2, which are assessment workshops. During this workshops, you'll be summarizing the questionnaire. You'll be creating a network overview. There's a persona generation or validation if you've already done the persona workshop in the within SOF. You'll be doing bandwidth calculations and teaching the customer how to do these. We'll talk about recommended networking practices, and we'll do a traffic simulation with the customer. At that point, after that's all done, we'll move into stage 3, and stage 3 is basically our presenting recommendations. So we've taken all the recommendations, all those notes from the customers, and we'll now move into, hey, Mr. Customer, this has happened. This is what you need to do to make sure Skype for Business will run smoothly in your environment. One of the very important things is setting those next steps in stage 3. Most customers won't be, so if we just tell the customer, hey, it's broken, you need to fix it, then unfortunately, that's usually where it ends. Most customers will say, oh, well, thank you for the information. That's fantastic, and I'll do something, and nothing ever happens. So it's super important to go through these next steps with your customer, to explain to your customer, hey, now we've told you this. This is your next step. This is what you need to do. This is what we are expecting from you as your next step to continue, well, to make sure that we have this great Skype for Business deployment. So those are the 3 stages that we'll walk through and we'll talk to in this presentation. So as an example timeline, I quickly talked about, hey, this is what we expect. We sort of expect about a week's worth of effort. We also expect, as far as a timeline, we expect that basically you'll do a kickoff workshop and you'll hand over the questionnaire. It'll usually take the customer a week or 2 for the questionnaire to be completed. You'll check that, make sure it's complete, and then about 3 weeks in, you would be doing the on-site workshops. You would cover the complete questionnaire, the personas, the bandwidth calculation, the traffic simulation, and a little bit more about that, because with traffic simulation, it's sort of separate from the on-site workshops, because some customers might be doing this themselves. Some customers might want you to do it. There's some tricks there, and we'll talk about that later on. And you'll be providing the network recommendations during those on-site workshops. And then about 4 weeks out, you'll be doing the closeout workshop with the recommendations. So in most cases, expect about a 4-week walkthrough. So we talked a little bit about advanced, we talked a little bit about the essentials, so what's the difference? So we are talking about essentials, and essentials is the one that's within SOF. So that essentials version actually provides insight to network requirements, will help identify potential weak areas. It's a mandatory part of every implementation, and you should keep running it throughout your implementation. And there's a minimal traffic simulation against Office 365. Basically, a tool tells you, hey, remember those network requirements we told you about, like 30 milliseconds of delay and things like that? This is how you're currently doing. Now, for the advanced offering, and that's a partner offering, that's really providing a deep dive into weak areas. That might be a remediation. They might be able to provide you with new new network kit where needed. They're delivered by qualified partners, and if you would like to do a network assessment, they can actually not just do a minimal assessment against Office 365, but they can supply you with a complete assessment that also takes care of the WAN, the LAN, and the internet, and they can do a full load traffic assessment. Now, what about this traffic simulation? Well, one of the new things with this October version of the Network Readiness Assessment is that even with Essentials, you have a traffic simulation. It's a Network Readiness Assessment tool provided by Microsoft. The nice thing is we have several partners like IR and Nectar. They also provide an add-on for this Essentials version that can do traffic simulation, but they provide a more, let's call it, advanced version of the tool. So while the Microsoft tool is really a bare bones tool that will do the minimum testing you will need, if you look at a partner offering, you will see that they will actually have multiple things like path analysis and things like that. These results can be used to verify your customer's readiness, your site readiness to get high results, high quality with Skype for Business. So all sites hosting the Skype for Business clients should be tested. By default, we're recommending 5 times a 1-hour test during a week for every site. It'll provide a deeper insight into network readiness. If you've got 15 sites in the same country that all have the same provider and the same connection type, you might not need to test all 15, but on average, we would expect you to test every site. They're non-invasive, so they're only generating a single call. They're not going to be too much for the connection. And the tests behave like normal Skype for Business clients when using the Microsoft Network Assessment tool. So you don't have to open any more ports than you would for running Skype for Business. Now, what does it do? It actually measured against our published networking targets. You can find that at this AKA link. It can run on any Windows laptop, PC, or server capable of running the Skype for Business client. So Windows 7 or above, Windows 2008 R2 or above. The one note to make here is that for Windows Server 28 or above, you will need to install the desktop experience. It uses the same ports and protocols as the Skype for Business client. So basically, your site must be capable of running Skype for Business. It can be replaced by the partner's add-ons. While the Microsoft Network Assessment tool has basic features, the partner add-ons have way more advanced features. Must be run on every site. The customer must provide those capable devices, and we actually have an assessment tool usage workshop that you can use to help your customer get deeper insight and understand what they need. So why would I want to do an advanced version of this? Well, once again, the advanced version is provided by partners. They can actually provide a deeper insight and can provide more information on that network. So reasons for this could be that, well, we know QoS is implemented, but has this been done correctly? Maybe there are some issues with networking equipment. Maybe we've got some doubts about meeting those network performance goals because the tests told us so. Maybe our essentials assessment told us that there are issues and they need to be resolved. Or maybe we need to do a wireless assessment, replace hardware, or any of the other triggers you see on this slide. If you go to the AKA link, you can find advanced assessment partners. So let's talk about the network readiness lifecycle. So on the left, that's where we'll start. We'll do a network readiness assessment essentials. This is basically the litmus test, so to say. You'll go in, you'll do a basic test, you'll verify that everything's on the up and up. You'll perform optimization based on those network essentials, on that network essentials outcome. And maybe it turns out that you need to do a network readiness assessment advanced. You'll do the network optimization that's attached to the network readiness assessment advanced. And once that's done, basically you're good to go. You've done your optimization, you've done your network test to make sure that, hey, we've done some changes, they're done correctly, we're ready to run Skype for Business. And now there's actually a change in the network or a change in Skype for Business. After this change, we would expect you to run a network readiness essentials test again. We want to make sure that any changes that have been done to Skype for Business or the network didn't have an impact on the possible quality. Once you've done that essentials, you might need to do some new network optimization. Maybe you've added a lot of new clients and it turns out that these new clients are actually using more bandwidth than you were expecting. This might trigger a new assessment, network readiness assessment, or maybe not. And as you can see, this is a life cycle that will continue over and over. Now, let's talk about the customer responsibilities, because while our presentation today is about what you can do as the partner or deployment team, the customer has some responsibilities with this too. So what are the customer responsibilities? So first of all, we have some questions and they're contained in a questionnaire. That's something the customer needs to complete. They also must provide access to the relevant teams while on site. If you're on site and doing the workshops with the networking team, the customer must make sure that you can actually have access to that networking team, that networking team is available for you to ask questions to and will participate in the workshops. The other thing they must do is make sure that they actually help you with the traffic simulation. It's a required part of any any network readiness assessment, and it's something the customer must do with you. You will need them to provide either some materials or some PCs or access to the network, and that's a customer responsibility as well. The final thing is they must provide access to a stakeholder or sponsor. You will need someone to back you through this network readiness assessment. If you're there and the customer really doesn't want to participate, you will not be going far with this assessment. So let's do a quick walkthrough of the network readiness assessment. So when looking at those 4 stages, they were close. Yes, these are the 4 stages we'll be going through. However, there's this 4th stage. It's the preparation stage. It's where we get ready to actually do the 3 stages of the network readiness assessment. During preparations, we'll go through the materials, follow the training, make sure that we get ready to deliver this. We complete and prepare the kickoff workshop presentation, so it's ready to deliver to the customer, and we familiarize ourselves with the customer. We talked a little bit about how the customer could have a let's just call it a, could have, is probably already participating in the Skype operations framework, and perhaps they might have already done a persona generation workshop. If so, that's super important information because that'll save us time during the on-site. This is why you must familiarize yourself with the customer and talk to the existing account team. Now, during stage 1, you'll deliver the kickoff workshop, you'll hand over the questionnaire, and you'll prepare for traffic simulation. During the on-site, you'll perform the on-site workshops and start the traffic simulation. Please note, however, that starting the network assessment, starting the traffic simulation doesn't necessarily mean you touching the buttons. It might certainly mean that you get the customer ready so the customer themselves can start the traffic simulation. It's something you will have to decide together with the customer who will be running the network simulation. Basically, the network simulation itself is nothing more than running a tool a couple of times, and most customers will run this by their own. Make sure that when you're scheduling these, that they're doing these around the same time as the on-site workshop, so you can continue into phase 3. In stage 3, which is the closeout stage, you'll be done analyzing the results from the traffic simulation and from the on-site workshops, and you'll be using that information to create a closeout presentation. That closeout presentation contains all the recommendations and all the things that you will be telling the customer what they need to do to be ready for the Skype for Business deployment. So what's happening in the preparation stage? And through all 3 stages, well, actually all 4 stages, including the preparation, we'll be using this flow. So what will you be doing? With what will you be doing it? So which materials will you be using? Then who will be involved and why are we doing this? We'll talk through that through every stage, and we'll give you a quick look at the materials provided. So what are we doing in the preparation stage? We'll familiarize ourselves with the material. You'll follow the training on skypeoperationsframework.com on Skype Academy. You should be doing a mock delivery of these materials, unless you've already done several of these. You must brand and customize all the templates. Add your deployment partner's name in these and edit when necessary. The network readiness assessments are usually not standalone, so make sure you talk to the deployment team and make sure that when you're talking about doing a network readiness assessment, that the rest of your deployment team knows this, that they know you're doing it, and they might have already done things like a persona workshop, so you might be able to recycle their materials. So familiarize yourself with existing efforts, and when you're ready, schedule the kickoff call with the customer. You should be prepared before engaging the customer. So what will you be using? There's an activity description document that you can show the customer, and it's basically a description of, hey, what are we doing in this network readiness assessment? There's a delivery guidance document, which is a step-by-step document that takes you through the network readiness assessment. There's a work breakdown structure project plan that project managers can use to schedule the hours needed for performing a network readiness assessment. Ours is an example, and you should edit this to your own needs and your own experience. There's also a document that's called Express Route Guidance. This is a special document that explains what Express Route is, what it does, and how it can benefit your customer. This is something the deployment team should go through, learn from, and at that point, the deployment team can decide whether or not Express Route applies to the customer. If they feel Express Route applies to the customer, or the customer should take a decision on this because it's a possibility for them, this can then be edited and delivered as a workshop during the on-site week. Not all customers will be able to run Express Route, or some customers might not be able to have Express Route because of national or maybe company policy. If that's the case, ExpressRoute is a separate deck. The deployment team should still familiarize themselves with what ExpressRoute is and what it does. But then reusing this as an ExpressRoute workshop is not necessary, and this is only meant for your education. So who's involved here? Well, no one. It's really the deployment team at this point. Why are we doing this? We want to make sure that before you deploy, you're completely ready to deploy this and to start running this at your customer. There's nothing that lowers the trust the customer has in you than going to a customer site completely unprepared. So really take your time to make sure you're ready for deploying this. With that said, what are the assets you'll be using in the preparation stage? So I've taken some examples and some screenshots directly from the assets. So as you can see, we've provided you with a work breakdown structure. We've also have an activity description. If you look at the excerpt on the right, you can see we've added things like a timeline. We've added things like who's needed, what are materials, what will you be doing. This is something most people would use. It's also sometimes used a statement of work. It's basically what are we going to do? What does the network readiness assessment entail? We'll also have delivery guidance. In this delivery guidance, and I've taken a small excerpt here, is basically a step-by-step how to deliver this. So as you can see, you get something like, hey, the next step is to talk to the customer through the tool usage guidance workshop. This workshop is to explain what the tool does, etc., etc. It's really step-by-step. This is the action you should take. This is why. This is how you take that step. The final piece is the ExpressRoute guidance. This ExpressRoute guidance really is meant to show any customer, to teach the deployment team what is ExpressRoute. How does this benefit? How does this impact Skype for Business? Once you've gained the necessary knowledge, this workshop can then be used to redeliver this knowledge to the customer where needed. This might not be applicable to all customers, so edit this to your own content and redeliver it at your own discretion. With that being said, we're now at this kickoff stage. So what we'll be doing in the kickoff stage? We're now introducing the network readiness assessment to the customer. We'll present and demo the questionnaire so the customer knows what they have to fill in and why. They will have concerns and questions around this, and this is your time to address that. The customers must feel comfortable and well prepared before starting the network readiness assessment. We'll also introduce the traffic simulation. What are the tool requirements? What are the tool needs? Why are we doing this? And how can the tool be run? We must set a completion date for the questionnaire. If you don't set a date, it will never be completed. We'll set a date for the traffic simulation, and we'll talk about who will be responsible for running this. Is this the deployment team or the partner? We'll set a timeline for our next steps. So when do we meet again? Who's going to be responsible for that? After the customer has sent the questionnaire back, you should verify and analyze the questionnaire to make sure it's completed and all the information that we need is in there and the information is correct. So what will you be using for this? There's a kickoff workshop template. Please keep in mind, this is your customer's first experience with the network readiness assessment. So make sure you're well prepared. This makes or breaks the network readiness assessment. If this is well presented and the customer feels that they can put their trust in you, you've done a great job. It introduces the customers to the flow, timeline, and responsibilities within the network readiness assessment. It positions the questionnaire and positions the traffic simulation. The questionnaire itself is a set of questions that the customer must complete for each site that they want to deploy Skype for Business in. It's a questionnaire that helps you identify possible issues and gives you a good overview. It will provide you with a large amount of information, and you must check this for completeness and for correctness of the answers before moving to stage 2, because in stage 2 you'll be basing a lot of the on-site workshops on this questionnaire. So who should be in this workshop? From now on, working with the customer means you need the project executive sponsor, you need a project lead, project manager and consultant. You'll need a collaboration lead architect, the network lead and a telephony lead. Those are the people you will need from here on during the network readiness assessment. It's important to have all of their buy-in and they're all visible and working with you on this assessment, because this impacts all of them. So why are we doing this? During the kickoff stage, the customer is informed about the network readiness assessment. We want to make them meet it. We want to help you, and we want to make sure that they know what it entails. We want to sell this network readiness assessment to them. We'll set the dates for the next step and deadlines. The questionnaire will help you get insight into the customer's network, and they also are informed about what they need to do to be prepared for traffic simulation. Any potential issues and risk, they can be highlighted when the questionnaire is returned in your preparation for the on-site workshops. So which assets will you be using? You'll be using the questionnaire, and it's a set of questions for each site. So things like, we'll ask you things like, hey, what's the site name? Where's the site located? How many users do you have? Who's the main contact? Etc., etc. They're really meant to give you a good overview of, hey, what's the network readiness assessment? Sorry, how does the network readiness assessment impact the customer? What does the customer sites look like, and what should they be counting on? The kickoff workshop, and I've taken a small excerpt, is basically the workshop your customers, this is the first time your customer will see the network readiness assessment. What we've done is, in all of the slide decks, and you'll see more of these, we've added hidden slides that are speaker notes. Those hidden slides, they introduce the next set of slides and will help you present them to the customer. With that being said, let's move into stage 2. So what do we do in the stage 2? So before we go on site, we've created this high-level network overview based on the completed questionnaire. We've also worked on analyzing the results from the questionnaire. So you should be able to get things like, well, it seems the customer already has an issue at this specific site. It's things like that that you want to highlight based on that questionnaire. We also want to prepare and complete the on-site workshop deck. As you can see, it's the deck really is a template, and you should edit it as applicable. At that point, you should deliver the on-site workshops. The on-site workshops have a portion in which you complete the personas. And we call them complete the personas because within SOF, there's already an existing persona generation workshop that your customer has probably run. You can use the output from that workshop to get everything ready for creating the personas. At that point, it'll be a verification exercise together with the customer. You would complete the bandwidth calculator with the customer. And at that point, you should also educate the customer on how to work with these personas, how to work with the bandwidth calculator, and how to work with the tools. We should educate on traffic simulation and how to extract the results and how to interpret the results. This traffic simulation start is optional because maybe you're running it, maybe the customer's running it. We should at least plan when the traffic simulation is done, because the results of the traffic simulation are used in the closeout workshop. You should take notes. Everything the customer says and does during this phase is an indication of what might be happening in the customer's network. You'll be running through a lot of the information in the deck, such as how should you deploy QoS, what are possible issues in a network, and your customer will respond to that. And you should record this conversation so that you're sure to do the right things. Some of the things the customer mentions should also be used in your closeout workshop. What's optional? I'm sorry, one step back. What's optional is to deliver the express route guidance. So you've walked through the express route guidance in the preparation stage. And this is also the point where you decide, should we redeliver this for the customer? If this applies to the customer, at this point, this would be a good time to also deliver that express route workshop. At the end of the week, you should create the next steps. What are the next steps? What should the customer do at this point? So what will you be using? There's an on-site workshop presentation template. The on-site workshop has 3 parts. It starts with the persona generation for the bandwidth calculation. And if they've already run the SOF persona generation workshop, that information can be reused and should be inputted before running this workshop with the customer. So it's basically a persona validation instead of a generation. The second portion walks through the bandwidth calculations with the customer. So not only is the bandwidth calculator completed, the customer now knows how to do it. And it ends with recommended networking practices. The total duration depends on the size and complexity of the customer, but most customers will take a day or 2 to run through all of the workshops. The bandwidth calculator guidance is an additional document that we've included in SOF that will help you apply the bandwidth calculator to the network readiness assessment. The express route guidance is optional, and it can be used as a workshop to guide the customer through the decision process. The deployment team must understand how express route works before the decision whether or not this should be redelivered can be taken. The other 2 things that will be used, the other 2 materials, are the traffic simulation tool guidance. This is the tool guidance for the Microsoft Network Assessment tool. It explains to you how often the tool should be run, where it should be installed, how it can be run, how to extract the results, at what time should the tool be ran. Everything's included. This can be run by only the deployment team, or maybe this should be part of a workshop with the customer because the customer wants to run the tool on their own. That's possible. Those are all possibilities that you can take together with the customer. Depending on how the customer wants to do this, this might be delivered during the on-site workshops, or perhaps this is delivered via a remote workshop, or not delivered at all, since the deployment team does all of the traffic simulation. There's also, please note that both the traffic tool guidance as well as the tool result guidance apply to the Microsoft Network Assessment tool. If you're using a partner add-on tool, the general concept still applies, but the exact commandlets and things that you must do, they will be different with a partner tool. The final piece of information or the final piece of material is the traffic simulation tool result guidance. This is a workshop that explains how to interpret the tool results. Once again, the people for who this applies to depends on who's running the traffic assessment and who's interpreting the results. If your customer is doing this, make sure to run this with the customer. If you're the one running this and the customer isn't, this might not be delivered to the customer themselves. It must be used in the results of the traffic tool, and it can be used as a workshop or just independently. So who should be there? It's the same as the previous stage. So the sponsor, the lead, project manager and consultant, the collaboration lead and architect, the network lead, and the telephony lead. Why are we doing this? So the main purpose is to educate the customer on how to get ready for Skype for Business and what Skype for Business needs. Then we also want to learn about the customer's environment so we can give the customer some recommendations. We also want to start the traffic simulation, not necessarily run it ourselves, but at least start it or get the customer started. Then we collect the results as well. The optional tasks is to educate the customer on ExpressRoute and set the ExpressRoute decision points. They're optional because, once again, ExpressRoute might not apply to all customers. So some examples of the assets that we have. The bandwidth calculator guidance. It's guidance on how to use the bandwidth calculator within the network readiness assessment. All these examples that are in there, the usage, how to use this. It's a one-time read, so you know how the bandwidth calculator fits within the SOF Network Readiness Assessment. The on-site workshops, as you can see, a lot of hidden slides. It will help you go through the workshop. There are also a lot of example slides. The example slides need to be updated with the information you have on the customer. The tool guidance workshop talks to you about, hey, how should a tool be deployed? What can they do? How should the tool be ran? We've included command line options. We've included the time frame in which it should be run. We've basically included everything so you can run the tool successfully. Tool result guidance. So what are the results? How will you get the results? How should you be creating the results, and how should you interpret the results? We have multiple examples in there, so it will help you how to get those results in and how to work with those results. Which brings us to stage 3, our closeout workshop. So what are we doing during this closeout workshop? We're taking the outcome and notes from the on-site workshop and the analyzed results from the traffic simulation, and we'll summarize them. And basically we'll make groups of highlights, lowlights, and attention points. It's important to mention both highlights and lowlights. We want to have a good conversation, not just a conversation that says, here's everything that's wrong with your network. It should focus on this went very well, this didn't go well, this is what you must do. That's the focus of this closeout deck. There's a closeout deck template provided. You must update it and present this to the customer, and we must set concrete next steps to which the customer makes a commitment. These next steps are vital for a high quality Skype for Business deployment. So your customer must commit and set a date to when will they complete these next steps. So what will you be using? You'll be using the closeout presentation template. This template has spots reserved where you can put all the results from the on-site workshops and the completed network readiness assessment things, just like the tools, the tool results. They must contain solid actionable steps. Improve network is non-actionable step. Increase bandwidth to 5 megabit for the Amsterdam location is a solid step. It also closes out the network readiness assessment. So the same theme as before should be there. And why are we doing this? We want to make sure that we highlight positive and negative aspects of the network to the customer so the customer can take action on those items. Based on the action the customer is taking, they can now get a higher quality Skype for Business deployment. If a customer chooses to ignore any guidance or any next steps that we've given them, they know in advance that the quality will be poor. Most customers aren't aware of risks they might have in their environment. This will help them be aware of those risks. So some of the assets that we'll providing you with, the closeout workshop. So as you can see, we'll show you, this is something you run the customer through and you'll put in the outcome from the on-site week. Like, hey, these are the personas we've established. This is how your network looks like. This is the outcome for the bandwidth calculator. All those things are in this closeout workshop. Now, as a summary, the network readiness assessment will highlight potential issues in the customer's network before the implementation of Skype for Business. A network readiness, that's a continuous process that should be performed during the life cycle. Keep doing the network readiness essentials and doing network readiness advanced where needed. It's a complete offering that can be augmented with add-ons or advanced offerings from partners. Any questions? Please join the SOF community and we'll be happy to help you out with any questions you have. Any feedback can be provided on skypeoperationsframework.com/feedback. With that, we close out. Please go to Skype Operations Framework to find more about SOF, provide your feedback, and go to Academy for training that you need. I hope this training was useful to you, and with that, I close out.